Hello there, welcome to Music Ally Focus with me, Music Ally's editor, Joe Sparrow. Now, in 2025, when it comes to ways for artists and rights holders to create flows of money around their music, the old days of simply seeking advances from either a label and/or a publisher are long gone. There are now so many ways to free up capital for rights holders. Sound Royalties provides one of those ways to do this. They call it, quote, creative-friendly music finance, and over 10 years ago, they pioneered a new type of funding model where essentially the company fronts money to artists or rights holders based on their future earnings from things like streaming or other sources. Those artists and rights holders can then use that money to further develop their careers and then even go back to Sound Royalties for more capital at a new valuation that reflects their newly developed success. So in this Music Ally Focus episode made in collaboration with Sound Royalties, I met with CEO and founder Alex Heiche in London to talk about what he's learned from 10 years of offering new funding solutions, the new income streams that the company is offering advances for, and what future developments he sees in a world where capital is routinely raised this way.
Okay, well, I'm joined here by Alex Heiche, CEO and founder at Sound Royalties, and it's nice to do a podcast in person for a change. Yeah, we are backstage at Music Ally Connect 2025. Good to see you, Alex. And first of all, to start things off, can you just give me some insight on who you are, what you do, and how did you get here?
Wow. So who am I? There's a lot of directions that I could go with that, personally, professionally. And I'll go with the latter based on this podcast and where we are at Music Ally. I am someone that thrives at the intersection of music and money. I'm an entrepreneur with extensive experience in finance and specialty finance and some technology experience. And so came to the music industry with that passion for music and the creator, and founded a company called Sound Royalties that finances and provides funding to creators, yet empowering them to retain the rights. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's quickly go into what Sound Royalty does, the services that are offered, and how this approach is different. And perhaps we can connect that with what you saw was missing at the start when you launched.
Yeah, so Sound Royalties provides funding and financing to creators without, one, buying the copyright, without, two, foreclosing on it, without, three, choking out the income stream. It's not a 100% recoupment model, which was predominantly what most deals were 10 years ago, whether it was an advance or whether it was funding or financing. And so it empowers the artist to be able to leverage their income streams to invest in themselves, but it's a fixed dollar amount for a fixed period of time. And that's something that's evolving now that's very important to talk about because it's not a percentage of the future. So think of us to be like, we are not a bank, but like a bank that provides financing. And we're unlike a bank because we don't take personal guarantees and we don't take the collateral of the copyright as a guarantee. But we also don't, more like a bank, take a percentage of the futures. We're not investors, we're financiers.
So this is perhaps enabled by the fact that in the streaming age, you can look at data, you can sort of make projections about how many streams are going to happen around a certain song over a period of time. So can you talk about that? What do you look for? I'm not asking for your secret sauce, but when you look at the data, what are the signals you look for that say, okay, we can work with this artist?
So we're looking at the historical earnings of the catalog or the tracks that the writer, producer, or artist, or independent publisher or label are bringing to us and predicting off that the future. And how are we doing that? Talk about the secret sauce. There's about a dozen factors that we look at, from the age of the catalog to the depth of the catalog to the type of royalty. Is it predominantly sync income that's non-repeatable? The genre of the music. There's so many different factors that we then put in this model that's a little over a dozen different primary factors that we trend and model. And after having done this, we pioneered this in 2014. And so we're going in our 11th year now, and we're constantly refining those models. So when we're working with a client and the next statement comes in, it's more than we predicted. Why? It's not just, it's less than we predicted. Why, right? We're constantly trying to fine tune those and perfect those. And as time goes on, we just keep getting better and better because we have more data to train on and to forecast with.
So let's go back to perhaps when you started this, is like you said, over 10 years ago, you spotted this opportunity but it was a bit of an alien concept or a new concept there.
100%. Yes.
What were the responses like when you first sort of offered it? You're obviously trying to fill a need, but what were artists and rights holders saying?
It's funny. So in 2013, I started to look at the music industry. In 2014 is when I made the leap into an idea that I wrote on a bar napkin that turned into a company called Sound Royalties. And what I observed back then is that there were banks that were servicing the music industry to some degree, but they weren't part of the music industry. They may have an entertainment banker that was well connected in the music industry, but the banks weren't considered part of the music industry. The financial institutions, the private ones, weren't either. And the reason being is predominantly their terms were predatory. Either they were high cost, or they were taking futures, or they were foreclosing and people were overextending, whether it was intentional or not by the company providing the advance. And they were finding people in desperate need and buying copyrights for pennies on the dollar.
Mm.
And at that time, I knew finance. And I said, I didn't want to be part of that. I wanted to be part of the industry. And so that's when I sat down and said, okay, these are the things that why these people are not part of it. And I want to help the industry. And so it was never with the vision of growing something big, which it has grown into big. It started off with the concept of, okay, how can I offer something fair? One, we won't buy, we won't foreclose. Okay, they can take that. They can't say that about us. And two, we won't choke them out of the income stream, and we won't take the futures. And all those together, that then posed the challenge that I face is what you just pointed to and what I just described is the perception of what Sound Royalties was. And over the course of 10 years, we've had to overcome that perception. And we've done that by doing the right thing time and time again. And so first thing I did starting in 2014 is I took every single coffee meeting I could with a business manager, with an entertainment lawyer, with an artist, with a writer. And every single coffee meeting, every single lunch or dinner meeting, I was in every single room that was music industry room, like Music Ally,
Yeah.
right? And connecting with people and putting a face behind the company. And now we've got lots of people like me that are faces behind Sound Royalties and part of our team that are out there and just showing that this is something that's real. This is something that's led from the heart that has grown into something substantial. We're actually funding creatives in 18 countries now.
A substantial portion of the listeners are artists or they're working really closely with the artist. How do you sell it to an artist in the sense saying they might think, finance, I can't get my head around that. They want to focus on art. So how do you sell it to them in the sort of soft sell way? How does it offer them something useful? What's the nuance around pricing and what is it, if you like, cost the artist?
Okay.
What's their side?
I heard a couple questions in there. So how do we sell it? How do we structure it? What does the product look like to the artist? And then how do people use it? So how do we sell it? Well, we start off very simply by not. And the focus is, look, if you have a use for the money, if there's an opportunity, yes, the money will cost something from us. There's a fee. You'll know upfront exactly what that is.
Yeah.
But don't take, just because you qualify for this large amount of money, don't take it. Take the amount of money that you have an opportunity for, and you can come back again and again and again. And so after 10 years of measured business, of complete 10 years, we have customers, the average return rate of all of our customers is 4.3 times. Right? They come back again and again and again. So it's not really a sell. It's, listen, this is what it is. If you have an opportunity that outweighs the cost, then absolutely. If not, we'll help you in any way we can. We're here. We'll answer questions. And when the time comes, you know the right place to turn to.
Yeah.
How do we structure it? The easiest way to explain it, I'll use dollars as a currency or euros. We're in Europe right now. And I'll say, let's say someone wants 8.5 euros, right? Obviously a fake number, because to qualify to come to us, each royalty stream or your entire royalty stream from one of the payors has to equate to about $5,000 or euros a year, $400 and something dollars a month. But someone comes to us and says, I want 8.5 euros. Okay. You want to pay us back in 1 year or 5 years? Well, the question is, well, what's the difference? Well, if we stretch it out 5 years, then we could potentially work with around 2 euros a year, right? And anything above that, or 50 cents a quarter, flows through to you. If it comes up short, we take that risk. There's no late fees, no penalties, and we recoup 10 over 5 years, right? And those aren't real numbers. It gives you an idea of the structure. It's a fixed dollar amount. You're getting X. We're giving you, we're going to recoup Y, and we're going to stretch it out over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years. And this is going to be the repayment of the advance. Anything above it, you get. Anything under, we're taking that risk.
One of the themes of Music Honor Connect this year, we've heard it repeatedly on the stage, is choice for artists. And you're saying you're not pressuring rights holders to do this. And one of the really complicated things for artists is that they are not only expected now to be a great artist, making great music, but they're expected to understand business and they're expected to understand options. And this is challenging, right? And I have a lot of sympathy for artists. What are when you present that as an opportunity, where do you place that alongside in terms of other opportunities that artists might be comparing it against? And then why does that, from your perspective, make yours better?
Yeah. So why do they use us? We can give some of those examples. And what are they comparing us to? Well, the first one is the biggest, is people that are looking at selling their catalogs. So we're an alternative to that. We're a stopgap that says, look, if you want to take some time, we'll give you bridge short-term financing so that you can really shop the catalog. You can really get it in order and then find the right sale. And if you don't, then you just have financing from us that'll pay off. And so we're an alternative to people paying off in terms of providing them a bridge or maybe a stopgap that they end up not needing to sell, right? They let their music season more. Their career takes another lift. So that's one of the biggest alternatives. The other alternative is traditional bank. And the difference between us and a traditional bank is going to be, a bank's going to ask for personal guarantees, and a bank's going to charge legal fees and appraisal fees, right? We don't charge that. And our pricing is equivalent to asset-based lending from a bank without the personal guarantees. And so the market is becoming more and more aware of that. And we're doing more 7- and 8-figure deals because they're like, wow, this is a great solution for what we're trying to accomplish. So people are checking with us when they're trying to finance a project. They're trying to fund tour production themselves and retain ownership. They've got a label that doesn't want to do this project and they want to do it independently and they have the clearance to do it. They want to not only create it, but they want to market it and distribute it. That's another reason that people are coming to us. Another reason is when they're negotiating a deal.
Right.
Do they want an admin deal or a publishing deal? Do they want a distribution deal? And what rate do they want to pay on that distribution? And if they don't take the advance, can they negotiate better terms? And if they do, then can they get the funding from us and it still work out cheaper? And the answer quite often is yes to that.
Right. I'm thinking from the artist perspective, but you're obviously dealing with rights holders who have catalogs as well. But the reason I'm asking from the artist perspective is that rights holders who have a catalog are probably more experienced and they can look at all these deals and say, right, okay, we're going to navigate the way which is best for us and works. What is the split between those deals roughly in you dealing directly with artist rights holders or catalog or label? What is your mix like of users?
Look at us like a society, there's a huge amount of the smaller ones because that's what the market is, right? If you look at a PRO's client base, they have an enormous amount of writers that don't make money. They have a substantial amount of writers that make some money. And then it gets smaller and smaller at the higher end. And it's similar with us. We don't have any that don't make money, but we do stuff as small as 5,000. So there's a lot of people that come through our door that are on the smaller side that want $5, $10, $25, $50,000. And then it starts to grow into 50, 100,000. And that's our bread and butter and those clients. And then you've got the 7- and 8-figure deals. So we service all clients and all of them get a live person and live people to talk to and live customer support, which we also feel is important. We don't hide behind the technology because one thing that's so important is reputation. And in our 11th year now, you're hard pressed to find anybody that says, hey, I didn't know what I was doing, because we spend so much time in educating and transparency and helping them understand. Trust and transparency is the utmost importance, to the level of we'll give you the artist a 1-page summary sheet saying, hey, here's this €8.50. Here's what it costs if you pay it back in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. What do you want to do? And like, I want that one. Then we give them the paperwork to process the transaction. Then we're ready to fund the transaction. We still don't fund it till an independent compliance department gets on the phone and walks them through the transaction. And only if that compliance department that's not motivated to see a deal get done, they're motivated to ensure that the creative understands and it wants to do this, then the transaction funds. So there's a lot of education along the way.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, why you're still here 10 years later. You said at the beginning you worked really hard on that trust element. You went and spoke to everybody, and that is a challenge of any operation starting up, I guess. But what other challenges have you faced in that time?
The other challenges would be understanding that it's not a label deal. It's not a publishing deal or an admin deal. We don't replace the publisher, PRO, label, or distributor. We just are the financing in downstream from that. And so as an artist, you choose the people you want to work with, your publisher, your distributor, your label. You stay with those. We don't replace that. So whether you're signed or unsigned, recouped or unrecouped, we can often still help and work with you. So that was one of the challenges for people to understand. The other one is, well, wait a second, you're offering me this, but I can get this much if I sign a co-pub deal, or I can get this much if I sell. And it was really educating the market that, look, it's not about getting the most money unless you need it and there's something you're going to do with it. With us, think of us more like financing from a bank. You take what you're going to use and you and can work with and have an opportunity for at that time. Not, I'm doing a co-pub deal. I'm going to give up X percentage of my publishing it for an extended period of time. I'm getting a free advance. Well, no, you're not getting a free advance. There's a trade-off there.
What have you seen you've moved into this market space? What have you seen change in the people who are operating around you and operating in different ways? Are the types of deals being offered from publishing and other parts of the existing music industry? How have they sort of responded, if they have responded to this way of working?
So there are some other companies now that have popped up and are offering financing and advances. I think they struggle because when Sound Royalties started, it wasn't about quickly making money or a buck. And so we could slowly grow into what we turned into. And I would have never guessed it had grown to the level that it has, but we could do fair financing and funding. We are bankable and we work with bank lines and according, from that perspective. So our pricing can be extremely competitive. These other companies that are coming are either their funding is venture backed or private equity backed. And those companies want to make teens, at least in the teens on their money. And then they have to make money on top of that. Or they try to find other ways by working with futures or putting in rights of first refusal. So there are more options, but I think over time, the market's getting educated on the finance options, as well as, hey, this is the true value of my worth. All these big numbers of catalog sales, you can see it's educated all artists on the value of the copyright, right? And they're negotiating deals. There's been a shift to more distribution deals over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? In a big way. And there's been a shift to admin deals, So we've watched the industry change. We've evolved with the industry. We saw the shift coming out of COVID and even before COVID of the need for tour finance. And so we started to go in that realm.
I was going to ask you about that. You've been in the market long enough now and you're offering these new products, right, to sort of offer artist support in different ways. Can you break those down, the different things you offer?
Yeah. So in essence, the best way to look at us is like a bank providing financing and funding. Now the products are, we can work with your publishing. We can work with your writer's share. We can work with your digital performance royalties and your masters and your distribution income. And so the newer products expand into newer payors. We work with 170 publishers, PROs, labels, and distributors that are sending payments for us to service their clients. And as we expand into other areas, we said, okay, artists have a need for tour financing to set up the production. To get the tour on the road, you need that initial outlay is the toughest part. Once the money starts flowing, it starts to flow. So are there ways for us to provide financing and funding for that? And we develop some products and do offer that, whether it's short form video or TV and film or entertainment production, streaming entertainment production finance. We're constantly looking, whether it's book royalties or we are providing financing to the music industry. But if there's a royalty income stream that the music creator is collecting that we're not aware of, but it's got a history and a track record, we'll look at it.
And so you look at it in the same sort of way. I mean, we're using the simple example here of, in the basic sense, that you can look at streaming income, calculate royalties, project ahead, and make a risk-based decision on that. But obviously, artists now are multifaceted. They are, as you said, they're short-form video stars, they're writing books, they make merchandise. So you're looking at, if an artist come to you and say, well, my streaming is okay, but I'm selling a lot of books over here, and you would look at that.
Absolutely, we'd look at that. And from the creator's perspective, but we look at it in a way of, is this repeatable income? For example, if you've got one sync that's predominantly driving the royalty stream and that sync is not repeatable, it was a one-time, not a license deal over a long period of time, we take that into account too.
Right. Let's look to the future then, because that feels like a fairly substantial shift in the last 10 years that you've witnessed, and you've reacted to those changes, and you're offering all these options for artists. That is a reflection of how the industry has changed. Artists now have a portfolio of income streams, for instance. So what's a future industry going to look like if, where this becomes, well, I mean, I guess it is normalized now, but if it becomes much more common in that mix of what rights holders and artists and performers do in terms of their career? What does a future industry look like from your perspective? And maybe how will that make a better future or a different future for artists?
If you look at the past 10 years, artists have become more knowledgeable and educated on the value of the copyright, the business of royalties, the data that technology has brought them an enormous amount of data to understand where is their money coming from. There's over 50 different income streams, creatives can collect from. It's incredible, but they're becoming more knowledgeable of that. And as we said, they're focusing on admin deals and distribution deals. That was the past 10 years. Now, if you want to look to the next 10 years, I see a pendulum swing. I see a correction happen in the sense that right now we're seeing 5% distribution deals. So they've negotiated all the way down to 10 to even 5% distribution deals. There's not much money in that for the distributor, but the creator is understanding that there is a value in a label. There is a value in a publisher. And so the label services are starting to take a hold, and they've overcorrected or corrected to the sense of cutting everything back on distribution. It was the distribution and an indie rush. And now I think it's going to swing back to, hey, my label or this label can offer services to me to help me grow. But I'm going to take private financing so I can negotiate a better deal on my overall distribution and then get services, and I can retain rights. I think transparent finance is becoming more and more a key term and something that you'll see. And then global reach. I think in the future, we're seeing less multi-platinum global superstars, but more regional stars. And we're growing as a result. We're currently funding creatives and artists in 18 countries and growing because they're regional markets and royalties are paying and they can earn a living. So they're creating music. And
when we look at the financing world and how banks operate, you are not a bank, but how banks operate,
yes,
is that they lend long and then they're also recouping over a long period of time. So they're thinking about the really, really, really big picture, which is what you're doing here. But the people who are borrowing the money have got the money immediately in the short term. And that almost feels like that's extrapolated out to how artists are looking at their careers and how consumption is happening. You mentioned their localized, like hyper niche artists, if you like.
yes.
They're servicing a very narrow but deep fan base instead of going for the global thing. And that kind of fits, that aligns with what you're doing in that sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's amazing to see the knowledgeable, educated artists on the music business with a focus on business, what they can do. We were looking at one case. We had a creative that came to us he qualified all in, for $30,000. Great. He actually took that financing. He came back 6 months later and took $250,000. 6 months later, he took $1.2 million. So you see this earnings growth to be able to qualify for financing of that. And then a year later, it was over $6 million in financing that he took from us. So he was able to leverage his success and reinvest and grow. It's great to see, and it's very rewarding.
Yeah, and that sort of also aligns with that idea of the modern artist, and they're getting educated, they're understanding the options. And okay, the cliche of 20, 30 years ago was that artists didn't know these things and they had to rely on intermediaries who were obfuscating the truth sometimes. Whether that's true or not, it's clear now that you've got this group of people who are able to make the decisions and do a deal with you, take the money, grow their career, and move forward. You're seeing that happen. So if you look into the future, then where are you looking to go? What are you looking to do? Growth, of course, but is there any new products you want to launch or directions you want to go in?
Well, we continually strive to provide a face for the company and the industry. And that's why you see us at all these different events. We're constantly want to be there. One, so that there's a face for the Sound Royalties and it's the faces of Sound Royalties that you see. But two, to hear what's happening, to see where the trend, we will continue to evolve as the industry evolves. Big talk now is technology, and we see that. And we use technology to fine tune our models. We use technology to provide faster responses. And we're deploying some technology solutions in the future that will bring to market around this as well. That's one of the buzzwords now, but we're constantly, when you go back to 2018, 2019, where the talk was catalog sales. We're, okay, how about a bridge? Because people would come to us and say, hey, can I get some money? I'm going to sell, but I need to invest in cleaning up my royalty streams and hiring these teams to do these things. Sure. So then we've developed a product for it. Same with tour finance. So over the next 10 years, we will continue to evolve as the artist and the creator economy does to be there for them.
The change is so fast and also unexpected. So do you have any sort of ideas where that might go, where those little opportunities might be? Or is it really a case of like, well, it's really down to the artists and we don't know where that's going to go yet? What's going to...
No, I think right now we're seeing the creator economy. Look, if you're an artist and you're generating some streams or not, the first thing the labels are looking to is your socials, right? And when Sound Royalties was founded in 2014, it was the tail end of what is this digital performance royalty income? What is Sound Exchange, right? And people had caught on and were collecting it. If you go to 2020, it was what is the MLC and am I collecting my mechanicals? And I can actually make money on mechanicals and there's value in them. And now what we're seeing is short form video and artists leveraging other in a creator economy. And so we're looking to and have provided funding on a small scale. We haven't announced a product yet, but we're looking at that and evaluating that to support the creator economy as an artist as they start to generate royalties in that arena. So wherever as an artist you're earning money and royalties and income, we can work with you and look at it to find ways to help you invest in yourself.
Interesting. I mean, what is fascinating is how artists are, especially younger artists, emerging artists, are totally multifaceted. And music is maybe their primary component of what they do as art, but, games, live streams, short form video, so many different things. They're building these sort of very complicated pictures of what they are. So I guess you're going to be innovating in ways you haven't expected yet in terms of income stream.
And they're coming to us with creative ways. They're saying, I've royalties coming from gaming because I put it on these platforms. Can I work with that? Can I grow that and invest in that? Gaming is a big topic right now because people the industry is starting to understand that, it wasn't just fly by night. And there's new, whether it's Peloton or uses of music, and wherever music is used, it drives an income.
That's a good sort of a snapshot of the last 10 years of financing around music. And it will definitely be interesting to see where it goes, because the one thing, to bring it back to Music on Connect, where we are, we've been talking for the last 2 days about all these myriad ways of making money. So it'll keep you on your toes, at least for the next 10 years. One final question. We've talked about music business. I want to ask a music-based question. And it's a simple one, which is, if you could only listen to one piece of music, could be an album, could be a song, or could be an artist's catalog, what would it be?
Ah, that's really tough, because it would be only one. But because I'd be stuck with only that, it would be piano based, because it would, I get passion from piano based music. So maybe Jim Brickman's catalog, or someone like that, where I can hear the pop music, I can hear the different genres of music, but I would never get tired of it. Right. And there's so much more. I love listening to you too, for going for a workout or going to a concert. For me, one of my favorite concerts is U2. So I could rattle off different music and artists and a lot, but if I was stuck with one, it would be piano based.
Spoken like a true analyst, looking for the value in what you've got there. Yes, so you're very on trend with what you've been talking about. Alex Heiche, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much again to Alex for joining me in the green room behind the stage at Music Ally Connect. And if you found that episode useful, please do share it on with someone else who you think will get something out of it. If you want to get in touch with me, I would love to hear from you. Of course, you can email me. It's joe@musically.com, and you can find a link to Sound Royalties right below this podcast too. So thanks for listening. As always, I've been Joe Sparrow. You have been you. And until next time, farewell.